The first person I ever had to fire was a woman in her 40s when I was 14 years old. And I'll tell you, I did the whole thing crying. I want to tell you about one small thing I got right that day without even understanding why, and the much bigger thing I got wrong that took me 20 years to fix. If you've got a conversation coming that maybe you've been putting off because it's going to be hard, this episode is for you. I'm Meredith Teason, and this is the Rooted Leadership Podcast. Last week, I told you about a little store I ran when I was 14. Same store. I stocked it. I kept the books. I placed all of the orders, and I hired all of the people, which meant that sooner or later, I was going to have to fire one of them. I didn't know that at the time. However, this lady, she was in her 40s, and I am going to call her Mrs. Smith. Unfortunately, she kept showing up late. I kept getting complaint after complaint, and eventually there was nothing left to do about it. So a 14-year-old girl sat down across from a grown woman and let her go through tears, a lot of them, and all mine. Can you imagine a teenager sobbing while she fires you? I laugh about it now, but then it wasn't a laughing matter. Here's the part I didn't understand at the time. I never once called her by her first name, not that day and not any other day. To me, she was always Mrs. Smith. Even while I was taking her job from her, there was a line of respect I couldn't cross. She was an adult. I was a child doing an adult's job, and calling her Mrs. Smith was the only way I knew to honor that. And I really didn't understand that I was honoring it right then. But I didn't have framework. I didn't have training. What I had was an instinct that she was still a whole person on the other side of that horrible conversation. That instinct was worth more than anything I learned about this in 20 years after. So let me tell you what happened a few days later. I was in our local grocery store and I look up and there she was, Mrs. Smith. I panicked, full blown heart and throat panic. And I did what any deeply mature 14-year-old boss would do. I turned down the aisle and stared at the macaroni and cheese like my life depended on it. I've thought about that grocery store for more than 20 years because hiding is information. If you can't face someone in the pasta aisle 3 days later, something in how you handled the situation probably isn't sitting right. Sometimes that's shame you shouldn't be carrying. You did a hard thing well and it still hurts. And sometimes it's your own conscience telling you the truth. And you have to be honest with yourself about which one it is. So here's what I know now. After 2 decades of doing this on the other side of the desk, there are really 5 things, and I want to walk you through them. One, you let someone go for a pattern, not an incident. Mrs. Smith kept showing up late. That was a pattern. The incident was just the day we finally ran out of room for that pattern. Whatever happened this week is almost never the real reason. The real reason is the pattern underneath. And here's the test that matters the most. If she's surprised in the meeting, well, then you failed, not her. Surprise means the pattern was never named out loud while she still had time to do something about it. Mrs. Smith was not surprised. I had told her more than once, maybe badly, but I still told her. That's the only reason a 14-year-old could honestly survive that conversation. The second thing is the conversation needs to be short. Decision, reasoning, done. Do not open with how the weather's been or how much you appreciate her. She knows what room she's in the moment she sits down, and small talk only makes her wait for it. You say the decision, you say it's been made, you give her the reason one time in one or two sentences, and then you stop talking. Most people ruin this because they're trying to fill the silence, and the silence isn't yours to fill, it's hers. 3, know what you owe her and what you don't. You owe her clarity, a straight answer, not a soft one that leaves her guessing for a year. You owe her the logistics, last day, pay, benefits, what happens to her things, who she talks to next. You owe her the chance to leave with her dignity in one piece. What you do not owe her is a debate. The decision is not on the table. If it were, you wouldn't be in that room at that moment. And you should absolutely understand that you do not owe her your feelings about it, which brings me to the thing I did wrong at 14. 4, you are allowed to feel it. She should not have to manage it. I cried in front of Mrs. Smith, and I understand why. I was a child and it was awful. It was my first time letting somebody go. But here's what my tears did in that room. They made a woman who had just lost her job responsible for comforting the girl who took it. That's a weight she should never have to carry, especially that particular day. That was a failure of dignity, and dignity is the whole job. So feel every bit of it. This should cost you something. The day it stops costing you something when you let somebody go from their job, you have a different problem. However, you need to feel it before or you need to feel it after. You don't feel it sitting across the desk from her. 5, use the grocery store test. Before you walk into that meeting, picture running into her 3 days later with your cart in your hand. Could you look her in the eye? If the answer is no, don't cancel the meeting. Change how you're about to do things. Usually the fix is small. You're going to be vague and you need to be clear. You're going to blame the company and it was actually your call. You're going to let HR say the hard sentence and it honestly should come out of your mouth. Here's what I want you to take out of this conversation and this episode. Firing someone is one of the few things in leadership where doing it well and feeling good about it are not the same outcome. You will not feel good. You're not supposed to feel good. Doing it well means she walks out with the truth, her dignity, and no confusion about what happens next or why it happened. I think about Mrs. Smith more than she would ever believe. I got so much of it wrong. I was 14, but I never took her name off of her. And after all these years, that's still the whole thing. You can take someone's job. You never get to take their dignity. If you know a woman with one of these conversations sitting on her calendar this week, send her this episode. She's probably been rehearsing in her car about all she needs to say. And honestly, she doesn't need to say much. She just needs to get it right. Remember, don't shrink, don't settle. Go be the woman another woman needs to see. And remember, until next time, continue to live life rooted.